Hello and welcome to Tech Deal's graphics card performance comparison. We are testing two different graphics cards today. The RX 480 versus the RX 580. These are both factory overclock cards. The Asus Republic of Gamers Strix 1310 MHz versus the Gigabyte Auroras at 1425 MHz. These are both the speeds these cards come from out of the box, and both are factory overclocked. Now, both would overclock further manually, but I generally test cards as they come out of the box. The question to be answered in this video is, does it really make a difference between an RX 480 and an RX 580? Two very good top-of-the-line cards. Both cards are installed in the same computer, my i7-7700K at fixed 4.7 GHz, 16 gigabytes of DDR4 3200 MHz RAM. We're running at 1080p resolution, high detail preset. Fraps was used for the game performance numbers I'm going to show you at the end of this video, but it was not used to record the video you're watching. Instead, the Elgato HD60S external capture device was used to capture the video you're watching on a separate computer. No performance loss, but you are watching the actual gameplay from the benchmark numbers you'll see at the end of this video. The numbers in green at the top left corner of the screen are from MSI Afterburner, a free program you can download to get real-time information on what your computer is doing. This program will really help you understand how much of your graphics card or CPU or main system RAM is being used in real time while you play. Now, first up we have the RX 480. You can see on the top line we're running at 1310 MHz. That's because this is a factory overclock card. It's a very nice one. I've covered it in previous videos. The first percentage you'll see up there is how much of the compute power, the brains of our graphics card we're using, and basically all of it. It's running just under 70 degrees Celsius. The fan is turning at a paltry 911 RPM or 33%. This is a triple fan card with a great big heatsink on it. It really never gets that loud. It's a very, very quiet card. The next line is the 8 gigabytes of VRAM, how much is currently being allocated. Now, the allocated RAM is not always what's needed or used, but in this case, it's probably pretty accurate. We're right at 3 gigabytes. So a 4 gigabyte version of this card would run just as well as the 8 gigabyte version. More VRAM doesn't make a card run faster unless a shortage of it is causing problems. Most games in 2017 simply don't need more than 3 or 4 gigabytes of VRAM at 1080p at high detail. Yes, some at ultra detail do need more than 4 gigs of VRAM, although frankly an RX 480 and a 580 in 2017 is really almost not enough to play most games at ultra. If you turn the details to max in Ghost Recon Wildlands, you will struggle to get 60 frames per second at 1080p with the details cranked to the max. You would need a GTX 1070 to do that. And of course, those only come in 8 gigabytes. That kind of solves your problem for you there. Having said that, let me be absolutely clear. I totally recommend the 8 gigabyte version of either the 480 or the 580 at the moment. Now, the advice I gave when I reviewed the 480 when it launched last year was to get the 4 gig card. Now, the reason for that is quite simple. At the time, the price difference between 4 and 8 gigs was about $60. And more games back in 2016 simply didn't need the RAM. For $60 more, and at the environment it was at in the summer of 2016, I didn't think the extra money was worth it. Times have changed. We're now into 2017, and the price difference has narrowed to just $30. So anytime I give advice on a card or memory or anything, price always comes into play. This channel is called Tech Deals after all. At $30 difference, in my mind, there's just no excuse to buy anything other than the 8 gigabyte version of these cards, because for the future, you're going to want that extra RAM for textures. No, it's not going to enable you to run games for the next 3 years at Ultra, but you will be able to turn texture detail up higher, even if your shaders and other details have to be down at high, because the texture detail is generally what drives your VRAM usage. So you could actually turn textures up, for example, to Ultra in this game from high, leaving everything else at high, and you'd get very similar performance. Higher quality textures generally don't detract from performance nearly as much as shaders and tessellation and some of the other effects which don't use VRAM but do use your GPU's power. In any case, get the 8 gig version. We're in 2017. They're $30 difference. It's not that big a deal. Now we're playing Ghost Recon Wildlands. I'm doing one of the story missions at the moment. I didn't think I was going to land. There's a train going by. I did not think I was going to get into this game. I have to admit, I really have. This game is included at the moment with NVIDIA cards. There's a promotion running in the month of April. You either get For Honor or Ghost Recon Wildlands if you buy a 1060, 70, 80, or 1080 Ti, which is ironic because I'm here testing RX 480s and 580s. But putting that issue aside, I got this game with one of those graphics cards, and I figured I'll just benchmark it. It seems like a cool new title. I played through the intro mission a few times. I played through the first mission to the farm the first few times, and I didn't think too much of it at first, right up until I went to benchmark it, and I'm like, oh, this farm mission is boring. I'll go do something else. I'll jump in the car, and I'll go do some side mission. How bad can it be? 45 minutes later, I realized I had been recording the gameplay and benchmarking for 45 minutes, and I'm like, I might like this game. Now, the benchmarks that you're watching here were each 15 minutes long. There's actually 33 minutes and 52 seconds worth of game footage total, so it's a little over 15 minutes per graphics card. I think 15 minutes is a good run to average out all of the peaks and the valleys in performance to provide a really good average number. Now I am going to include 1% lows and 0.1% lows at the end of this video. I'm not doing minimums and maximums anymore. The reasons why I'll explain when I get to the results. But in short, this game performs very well on either card. Now, I am not making this video because I think all of you with RX 480s should immediately get rid of them and run out and buy a 580. I'm more making this video because a lot of people are asking if they should do that. And this video is meant to be the answer. Should you go out and replace your card? Should anybody with a 400 series card replace it with a 500 series card? Well, we'll get to the results towards the end. But let's just say that generally in any one generation of product change, you don't see a large difference. There are exceptions. NVIDIA's jump from the 900 series to the 10 series was a fairly large jump. Their move from the 700 to 900 was less of a jump. Likewise, AMD's jump from the 200 series to the 300 was not a big jump, but the transition from, say, the 7000 HD series before that to the 200 series was in some respects a very nice jump. Now, not in terms of compute power, but VRAM improvements, architecture, memory bus improvements. There were some changes in there that made that worth considering. Now, if I had a 7000 series card, would I replace it with a 200 series card? I actually did, but I wouldn't have in retrospect, but I would have waited, and at the 300 card, I would have replaced it. Oh, those guys look mad. There's 4 of them in there, and I can only sink 3 shots. That's all right. We'll get them. For those of you curious, I am going to be doing an upcoming video series where I compare 7000, 200, 300, 400, and 500 series cards from AMD and 600, 700, 900, and 10 series cards from NVIDIA. I own some of them, and I've recently picked up a couple of the older ones off of eBay in order to do comparison videos. I actually used to own a R9 290 and then sold it when I replaced it a few years ago. I went back onto eBay and bought another one so that I can use it in upcoming tests. Because one of the questions to be asked is, at what point should you upgrade? If it's not 400 to 500, is it 300? Is it 200? Or is a 200 still good? Is a 290 still good in 2017 to play games such as Ghost Recon Wildlands? 2 points. I think a lot of people want to know that question. And number 2, it gives me an excuse to play more Ghost Recon Wildlands. What can I say? Now, if you want a free copy of this game, let me make a suggestion. Buy the 6GB version of the GTX 1060. It's about the same price as the RX 580, and it's almost exactly the same performance. In fact, I recently posted Ghost Recon Wildlands with the RX 570, 580, and both of the GTX 1060s, 3 and 6 gigabytes, to see how the performance was, and it was very, very, very similar across the board between the 2 levels of cards. And if you buy a 1060 6GB card, you get a free copy of Ghost Recon Wildlands, at least for about another week or so, well, maybe not even quite a week. That promotion is coming to an end. Now, if by chance you want to buy an AMD card, there will be links to Amazon, Kingwin, and G2A down in the video description below. If you like this video and you plan to go buy a copy of the game, by all means check those links out and buy it wherever it's cheapest. Now that's about 10 minutes of gameplay on the RX 480. Now I'm going to show you the RX 580. This card is awesome. This is the Gigabyte Auroras factory overclock card, RGB lighting, 2 very large oversized fans. In fact, while this card only has 2 fans and the Asus card has 3, these are larger fans with a larger oversized heatsink and shroud. This thing is absolutely silent. There is something added to this run. This is the very first time I have ticked this box and added it. Look in the MSI Afterburner numbers. First you have the GPU usage, then you have the temperature of the card, and now you have a new number. This is the wattage draw of the card that is being reported by the card. Now, is this accurate? I have not done in-depth tests to see whether this is accurate. MSI Afterburner is pulling this number off of what the card is reporting. It's currently reporting that the card is using about 120 watts, which is odd because this card comes with both an 8-pin and a 6-pin PCI Express power connector. That is 225 watts of total power delivery. Add the 75 watts from the motherboard, and this card has the potential to draw up to 300 watts. So 120 watts seems a little low to me. Again, very first time I'm using this feature. I have not done any testing on this. I plan to at some point in the future. I want to do a power draw comparison to see what different graphics cards actually use, but that's not the point of the video. I'm just inserting it because you got to start someplace. After that, you have the percentage of the fan speed and then the actual fan speed itself, and then you can see the 1425 megahertz clock speed. Now, the standard stock speed of an RX 580 is 1340. This is almost 100, not quite 100 megahertz overclocked. It will go further. Turn that fan speed up to 50 or 60%, crank the clock speed up to 1500, it runs just fine. Why am I not running it that way? I'm showing you the out-of-the-box experience of both of these cards. In fairness, the Asus Republic of Gamers card will also come up to about 1400 megahertz, so both cards will run faster than they come out of the box. Does it have an impact on performance? Yes. Does it have a huge impact on performance? No, not unless you also increase the VRAM speed, the memory speed. Now, if you look at the second line, you'll see the memory on both cards is the same, 2000 megahertz. Now, that can be, of course, overclocked as well. There's a slider in MSI Afterburner to put in a higher number if you want. I will caution you that as you increase the speed of the VRAM and the speed of the core clock of the chip, the temperature rises. Notice that we're at 71 degrees Celsius. Now, we have a big fan and a big cooler, and if you turn that fan up, temperature is not going to be a problem. In fact, you're going to hit voltage limits before you actually hit a temperature limit. The cost is going to come in noise. This fan is absolutely silent at its current speed. I mean, seriously, this thing is completely silent. Turn it up to 60 or 70% and it's not. How much noise are you willing to tolerate to get another couple of percentage points of performance? Me personally, I don't think it's worth it. Anything above 50% fan speed starts to become audible. Down at this fan speed, it's completely trivial and it's nothing. Now, it depends upon where your computer is located, how far from you it is, what your sensitivity to noise is, whether or not it's under your desk, on top of your desk, facing you, I mean, all these things take into account how much noise you will perceive. This computer was on the desk about 2 feet away from me while I was doing this testing. The case fans make more noise than this video card does. The liquid cooler on the CPU makes more noise than this fan does. Turn it to 60% fan speed, and then I can start hearing it. It's not overly loud, but it's just that little bit of background noise where you're aware that it exists, you're aware that it's there. Just keep in mind that that's true of all these cards. The Asus card, the MSI Gaming X, which I've previously covered. Turn all of them to 60 to 70% and they all become audible. It's at this point I would like to draw your attention to something. Does this mission look familiar? I'm doing this on purpose. This is the exact same mission that I ran before. You can't get more reasonable, at least in a game such as this, other than to repeat the same mission to be in the same area doing the same basic thing. Now, I chose this game, this detail setting, these cards, and this CPU for one simple reason. I know this is 100% graphics bound. We are limited by the performance of these graphics cards, not by the CPU, not by the game engine. So this is a pure representation of the performance difference between these two factory overclock cards. Please note that not all games will show the same results that you'll see at the end of this video. Some games will show more, some will show less. Some games aren't as graphics card bound, they might be CPU bound, they might be game engine bound. Keep in mind that these results are valid for completely graphics card bound games when you have plenty of CPU and you're only limited by the power of your graphics card. Now, I would expect, but have not tested, that if you overclock both of these cards by about another 50 to 100 megahertz each, then the spread will stay about the same. Same thing with the VRAM. I have not spent a lot of time messing with the VRAM performance. I might take both of these cards and turn the VRAM up as much as possible and turn the graphics chip up as much as possible. The only issue there is if I throw the fans at, say, 70 or 80% and it's loud and annoying, well, I only have to do it for 15 minutes for benchmarking purposes, but would you really want to listen to it for hours on end if the fans are screaming away just to get another 50 megahertz? I don't think that's very realistic. That's one of the reasons why I test out of the box. The other reason, of course, is I think most people never ever install a utility such as MSI Afterburner, change their clock speeds, they buy cards so they don't have to mess with it. Now, there are timestamps down in the video description if you just want to fast forward to the results, by all means. But I think it's important to put about 10 minutes of the 15 minutes of footage here. If you just wanted benchmarks, well, there's web pages for that. You don't need to come to YouTube for a couple of charts and a 3-minute video. Well, I guess some of you might. I believe watching the live gameplay, seeing the real-time frame rate, seeing the VRAM usage, the CPU usage, the main system RAM usage, the temps, the fan speed, this is part of what I think brings value to these videos. I showed you 10 minutes on the RX 480. I really want to show you 10 minutes on the RX 580, even though, frankly, I think I've said pretty much all that needs to be said. But since this is Tech Deals, and those of you who know me, I can always find something else interesting and useful to say. So I talked about the VRAM, I talked about the CPU, I've mentioned main system RAM endlessly in previous videos. I won't bore you with why you should have 16 gigs of RAM, even though it says we're using 6.5. Yeah, you should still have 16. Oh, I botched this one up. That's terrible. I missed him. I hit the railing. And I missed him a second time. And a third time. I'm supposed to be an elite super special forces agent, and I completely suck shooting. I finally got him with, the fourth shot? That was terrible. Well, the interesting thing is while I botched it, it changed it. Instead of having to assault this base, watch this. I didn't actually know this was possible, so this is kind of cool. The lieutenant, the objective of this mission, who I'm trying to capture, is now going to flee the base. He's going to leave his base of heavily armed, guarded men with machine guns and assault rifles. He's going to get in a car and drive down the road all by himself. Gee, don't make this easy. So we're now going to go chase him down. Watch out for the purple guys. The purple on the left side of the mini-map, look down bottom right, purple I'm driving by, that's the Unidad forces. We are in Bolivia, and that represents the real military of Bolivia. The orange or the orange on the map represents the Santa Blanca drug cartel. They're bad guys. They have helicopters, mortars, machine guns, etc. But they're not the military. There is a limit to the forces they will bring down on you if you piss them off. Unidad, however, once they actually engage and acquire you, will not let you go unless you completely escape. And they will bring more and more forces, up to and including tanks and guns and rocket launchers and gunships and... oh, sorry dude, wrong place, wrong time. Now this right here is actually interesting. I'm using the guns for hire. I'm calling in some rebel support because my initial plan here is to assault this area. Look at all that orange on the map. That represents the Santa Blanca rebels. And my first thought is, well, let's clear out some of these bad guys. I'll tag them with a sync shot so my allies, my three buddies will target them. And then we'll go in and kill all these guys, and then we'll snatch the lieutenant. And then I discover something interesting. Now I'm going to use this sync shot. I'm going to kill those two guys, and I should there. Nope. Yes. Look just above the mini-map on the right-hand side of the screen. There's a key. Oh, there we go. We just engaged him. Sync shots on cooldown. You can tag targets with your drone. I'm currently flying the drone overhead. Wonderful tool. Absolute blast. Now, there are areas where there are drone jammers, and you can't use it, and it takes your fun toys away until you shut the jammer down. But you can tag targets and either hold down Q to have them just go ahead and kill them, but it's on a 30-second cooldown, or if you tag 3 enemy targets and then kill one yourself, they'll auto-engage. So there are times when there are 4 enemies like standing by the roadside or surrounding somebody. Tag 3 of them and use your sniper rifle to take out the 4th. And they'll all be shot at the same time. Look at this guy. He's just sitting here. I thought I had to take out the whole base. And he's hiding behind this pile of logs, I think that is, like the coward he is. Sorry, dude, I've got a gun and you are coming with me. Unrelated note, how awesome is that tattoo on my right arm? Take a look at my left arm if you get a chance. There is an American flag, an eagle on my right arm that is very cool. So we knocked him out and we've got 4 minutes to go free this person, Wagner, I guess it is. The interesting thing is the first time I did this, I didn't actually notice the timer. Look in the upper left-hand corner underneath the MSI after. The problem with doing this sometimes is those MSI afterburner numbers actually get in the way of the gameplay. The very first time I did this, I didn't think there was a time limit to go get this. And I went off and I did a side mission and failed it and I had to redo it. That's actually the honest reason why I'm doing this twice. You didn't see it before, but that's what happened. So we have 4 minutes to go rescue this guy, but not only do we have to rescue him, we then have to extract him from the base he's located at, get him past a whole slew of Santa Blanca cartel members, drive past some Unidad forces, and get him to a rebel base without having our car blown up. Why? Because we are going to grab this guy, rescue him from certain doom, and then shove him in the trunk of our car. We are so thoughtful. Now, I might be dating myself here, but this would be an excellent time to insert some Beach Boys music. The Get Around song, which if you are younger than me, you might not even know what I'm talking about. But Get Around would be an excellent song to be playing right now. And the only reason I don't put it on here is because I'd end up with a copyright strike on my channel. And of course, they would want to mountainize it, so we're not going to do that. So just pretend that I'm playing some music while we're driving. Look at this canyon. Good thing it's not my car, because we're going to have some more dips and spills before we get done with this. On a completely unrelated note, I would like to thank the residents of Bolivia for not having locks on any of their cars and always being sure to leave the keys in the ignition. It is very handy when American Special Forces agents need to commandeer your vehicles for important hostage rescuing purposes, even if perhaps your vehicles are not going to come out very well in the end. It's only a car, it'll be okay. So we have 2 minutes left out of our 4 minutes and we're not even here yet. And lo and behold, there's a bunch of enemies. Now this is a good example of where you can't just take your time, put the drone up, scout out the area, sync targets to everything, because you're on a timer. We've now got 1 minute and 40 seconds. And I'm going to go ahead and bring in some guns for hire, although I actually won't need them because there's only 5 guys here. And it turns out, well, you get spoiled. You use the sync shots too many times. You use your abilities too many times. And what ends up happening is you forget that the 4 of you can easily take out 5 Santa Blanca drug cartel members. It's the bases with 20 and 30 and sometimes 40 that you need to take your time and take out strategic targets. There's only 5 guys here. We're 4 American Special Forces. This is not going to be hard. And boom, 1 dead. Now they're immediately hunting us, but hang on. Boom, 2 dead. Now there's only 2 left because Sync Shot took out the one that was there. It is. He almost saw me. We'll come around here and my ally will get in the way, but that's okay. And oh, and he moved. But that's okay. They're covering this door. How about I go cover the other? Oh, I don't. You can't shoot Wagner or mission failed. The guy with the yellow above his head. So we'll come around this door and this poor guy just has no idea. Is shooting a guy in the back unsportsmanlike? Probably. Now, we've come to save you. Thank you, thank you. But who are you? We are your saviors. Now come with me. I'm going to put a gun to your head even though I'm rescuing you. Come over here, dude. We are going to save you by throwing you in the trunk of our car. Newsflash, if you are tied up and unarmed and 4 very heavily armed Americans speaking English show up with assault weapons and grab you and throw you in the trunk of a car, well, they're probably doing it for your own good. Now, this was a close call. Ouch, I think I broke his hand shoving that in there. Watch this. Boom! I am knocked unconscious. This is awesome. This part of the game is cool. My 3 teammates will keep fighting. I can't remember a game that would let you die or at least become incapacitated and your AI opponents would keep fighting. Now, if this was an online multiplayer game and you get knocked out, sure, like Mass Effect Andromeda when you're playing online, you can be revived by one of your humans. But in most games, if your AI allies get knocked out, you can revive them. But if you're knocked out, it's instant mission failed. No. Your guys keep fighting. They destroyed that vehicle. and they've got, I don't know, 30 seconds or so to revive you, which they did, even though I was sitting in the passenger seat of the car. And if you watch that closely, you'll see that he was even going through the animations. The guy sitting in the passenger seat next to me reached over, hit me with the injection or the shot or adrenaline or whatever the heck it is, and revived me sitting in the seat while the other guys fought. That is a nice touch, and I thought that was pretty cool. Now all we have to do is get away from all these Santa Blanca rebels, and there's roadblocks everywhere. We already drove past 2 roadblocks. We got to get past this up here. Now there's no timer on the extract, but here's the problem. Notice we're engaged and we're still going to be hunted. We're going to escape briefly. They'll re-engage. They'll be hunted. They're coming after us. Now my guys are going to start shooting at him. I think it's funny. The black guy in the rear seat has a sniper rifle and he's firing it fully automatic with endless ammunition. Well, realism takes a backseat to fun. Notice that the hunted has gone away. There's no longer a color ring around the mini-map, but now it's back. See the cars on the road? They're coming after us. We got to get there. Now the mission's complete and they go away as soon as we get there, but we have 2.3 kilometers left to drive and there's going to be more. In fact, there's 2 cars chasing us now. Now they're further back, but imagine if our vehicle was destroyed and we had to go hijack another vehicle, or imagine if a teammate was injured and we had to save him. So it's worth noting that a lot can go wrong on these missions, and some of them get even more complicated. So this is still relatively early in the game, but it's a good representation and example of how fun this game is. Again, as I said before, links in the description below to go buy this from various places, or just buy a GTX 1060 at least while the promotion's running and get a free copy. If this game does nothing else, it will satisfy anybody out there who has an OCD streak who likes to clear maps. Now this is a main story mission, but the amount of side missions, secret weapons caches, supply drops, and random villages to be cleared is nearly endless. While there are dozens of hours of main story in here and you could easily spend 100 hours doing everything, I fully expect that you could spend hundreds and hundreds of hours in this game and not run out of things to collect. You get more skill points, level up your squad, level up your abilities, get more ammo. You can have vehicles dropped off. There's all sorts of things you can do that will tremendously improve the performance of your squad, your guns, what you can carry, vehicles, the rebels which you are working with and supporting. You can have more powerful upgraded rebels. You can even have it set up so they drop off armored vehicles for you. Lots of cool abilities. I mentioned the tattoos before. Those are just cool. Santa Maria is on my right arm and the American Eagle flag is on the left. And let's be honest, those sunglasses just make me cool. I'm standing indoors, wearing them is completely ridiculous, but all Special Forces agents just look totally badass when they are wearing sunglasses. And that's it, mission complete. We're dumped back outside to go do more stuff. Yay! We got 500 XP, good for us. I like that you never see what happens to the guys that you extract. I am assuming that our CIA agent is not going to just release that guy and let him go free. They might find a small shallow ditch to drop him in, who knows. With that being said, let's take a look at the results. RX 480, 1310 megahertz core clock speed, we have an average of 67 frames per second. On the RX 580 at 1425, we have 77 frames per second. I will be completely honest with you and say this result surprised me. There is a 10 frame per second difference here, and I ran basically the same mission in the same area of the game on the same computer on Ghost Recon Wildlands. Briefly, let me talk about the 1% and 0.1% minimum numbers. 55 and 64 for the 1% and 50 and 60 for the 0.1%. So the spread is almost exactly the same, about 10 frames per second there. What is a 1% minimum number? That means that 1% of the time the number was that or less, and 99% of the time it was above that. So while the average is the sum total average of all the frames, 55 frames per second is you will get at least that 99% of the time on the RX 480, and 64 frames per second you will get 99% of the time on the RX 580, at least at these clock speeds. 99.9% of the time you'll get 50 and 60 frames respectively. Now, having said all that, is it worth replacing an RX 480 with an RX 580? No, of course not. It's going out and spending $250 to go out and buy another card for an extra 10 frames per second makes exactly no sense whatsoever. The value in the RX 580 is if you have an older card or a slower card and you're upgrading to this. If you have an RX 480, you can certainly try overclocking it, especially if you have a nice one such as this Asus Republic of Gamers or the MSI Gaming X or the Gigabyte card. Go into MSI Afterburner and turn the clock speed up 50 or 100 megahertz. You might find it runs just fine. However, if you have an RX 480 and you really want more performance, the only real card at the moment in April of 2017 that is worth upgrading to is either a GTX 1070 or a GTX 1080. However, AMD Vega is coming soon. We don't know exactly when. We don't have any details. I've not gotten any information from AMD, but the rumor mill is rife. Maybe in the next month, maybe in 2 months. It's coming soon. AMD is planning a card that will be somewhere in the 1070, 1080 performance range. I don't know if it's going to reach a 1080 Ti, but it should be competitively priced, and if you want more performance, that's what you want to consider upgrading to. However, if you're debating between an RX 480 and an RX 580, this gives you some information on what relative performance difference you can expect based upon these two clock speeds. Like this video if you like it, share it with your friends if you loved it. Remember to subscribe to my channel with the big huge red button directly below. Post your comments below the video and check out the video description for links to everything mentioned. Finally, find my link to Patreon down there. Do you like my videos? Do you like my channel in general? Do you want to see more commentary like this? Consider supporting my channel on Patreon. I would greatly appreciate it, and every dollar donated goes right back to the channel for unboxings, build videos, hardware guides, reviews, game performance videos, and other cool stuff. Thank you so much for watching. I'll see you in the next video.